Hello, and welcome to Parsley and Sage, the gardening podcast to grow by. I'm Pam Pooley.
And I'm Jeanne Farewell.
And we're here to share what we've learned from digging and designing,
weeding and planting,
watering,
feeding,
figuring,
finessing,
loving the land,
and all things green.
So let's grow. Today, Jeanne and I are going to reflect on 2023 and what we observed in our garden and what changes we made in our own gardening behavior. So I'll start with you, Jeanne. What were some of the new things that you undertook in your backyard?
Well, my big project is slowly eradicating the lawn. In its entirety, every blade of turf grass. So I put in more holly trees, American holly trees. I put in river birches.
Natives.
I put in a meadow So the trees are creating a kind of structure, and then I'll get down to the shrub level, and then down to whatever, the ground cover. Yes, and so forth. So this is an ongoing project. If someone said initially, fill everything here with plant life in one season, I would have been horrified. But since I'm doing it kind of incrementally, little by little, I can sort of see it evolve, and it doesn't seem like such a daunting task.
Wonderful advice too, because there is a big push now to get rid of lawn because of the waste of gasoline and the pollution, and then of course it's a monoculture, a lawn is, and it doesn't do anything for wildlife habitat, for the pollinators that we need to feed the wildlife. So I honor that. That's really wonderful that you're doing that. And it does take little by little is really a good way to go about it, rather than trying to get rid of all your lawn at once.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. I too have been adding trees, and in that whole notion of alleviating lawn, I made one boo-boo this summer that I planted 3 ginkgo trees, and my husband loves them, and I didn't think much about their habitat for nature, and I didn't think about their role in the ecosystem. And actually, after I went to a lecture by Doug Tallamy, he said that a tree like a ginkgo actually is like a statue in a garden. It does nothing for, for wildlife. And I was horrified and thought, oh my gosh, that's something that we do have to kind of think about now in our arsenal of, planning. We have to think about, like, what I am planting, is it useful for the earth?
Right.
And I really like that notion, and I think that after a summer that we had a lot of challenging weather patterns this summer, and so we're noticing that climate change is actually making some severe impacts in our backyards. I mean, a lot of rain, and a lot of warmer weather. And so the ginkgos look nice, but now I know they don't do anything. I immediately ran out and got a little pin oak tree after I heard him talk, because I couldn't believe what he said, that the pin oak actually is what they call a keystone plant. It's essential for an ecosystem to thrive, and it harbors 557 types of caterpillars. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
And why are caterpillars so important?
Well, they're food for birds.
That's right.
Yes.
Especially, it's the first food that birds are looking for in the springtime.
Right. And certain birds require certain plants. I mean, there's a very specific system out there in the web of life that has to be considered.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I remember hearing Doug Tallamy talk as well, and I got his book, and I follow it religiously.
Which one is that? Bringing Nature Home? Or he has several.
Living
the
Landscape.
Mighty Oak.
Is there a Living Landscape?
There might be. Yeah,
I don't want to say that for certain, but he has graphs and charts in the back of the book.
Oh, interesting.
That have little icons of bees, birds, whatever.
And their
creatures.
host plants,
yes,
right?
And their host plants.
Yes.
And so you can look at a plant and see if it has a zillion icons after its name, that means it's really a very high functioning plant in terms of the environment. If it has 0, then you don't want it. Interestingly, not all native plants are highly functioning in that sense in terms of, supporting the ecosystem, because some of them, like the yellowwood tree I remember he mentions, doesn't do diddly. On the other hand, there's the Japanese Ilex crenata, which is a foreign, non-native holly that does have ecological functions in hosting this, that, and the other thing, or whatever. I don't know specifically.
But it does do a few things.
Yeah, right. So you do have to do your homework, but obviously the natives are, established here, and so very important overall. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a big change, and a lot of property owners are letting their lawns grow and getting more native plants. I guess that one thing I hear out there is that natives don't have as much maybe physical beauty in some cases as more, exotic plants that we bring in from other countries. What do you have to say about that?
Well, there are some showstoppers.
Yes,
some of those Joe Pye weeds have these big blossoms.
Yes.
There are native hydrangeas that are, you get a lot of bang for your bucks, as they say.
Yes.
Very big blossoms. And then maybe a spindly native plant on it by its own might not make you swoon, but if there's a sea of them, suddenly you see a sea of color. So
yes.
You might have to mask them a little more.
Now, that's a great point in terms of design. As a design principle, massing is very effective.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about massing is that you have the other times of year when that plant's not in bloom,
Mm-hmm.
but if it has good structure,
right.
it can give you a lot of seasonal interest through the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do want to mention, since we were talking about Ptolemy, that he talked about his initiative. Folks listening to us might want to look up online, called Homegrown National Park, and the URL is very similar to that name, Homegrown National Park, and you can register online what you're doing in your house, what kind of things you're doing.
Oh, that's excellent.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But what else would you think listeners would benefit from hearing from experience in your own garden last year?
Well, I started a dead hedge, and basically...
What is that?
We don't hear about it in this country. It's an English thing, but basically you take your old sticks and branches and you're going to turn them into a hedge or fence.
Wait a second. You what do you layer them? Or?
Well, it can be very tailored and constructed or not, but you basically stick in the ground a few posts, which basically are saplings or trunks or, logs, branches, whatever. You stick them in the ground vertically, and you can have 2 rows of those. Between those, you put whatever sticks, your branches, your pruning, you just layer them, and then it grows up into kind of a fence, a natural fence. Now, some people actually take like early branches because they're more supple and bendable, and they kind of weave them through the vertical post, so you get this woven fence look. But the wonderful thing is, I don't have to traipse very far away on my property because I put a dead hedge right behind the garage area, and I can just take whatever sticks I'm pruning and build up this structure, which is a very natural looking structure of sticks and branches. The English actually put wool in there. They throw anything in it, but it's like a natural fence in effect.
Wow.
Yeah, dead hedge. You should look it up.
I will. I've never heard of that dead hedge.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so cool.
Right.
What other things do you have up your sleeve that are not maybe that well known?
Well, unfortunately, too well known right now is the Asian jumping worms.
Oh, I've heard bad things about them. What do you know?
Yeah, they're kind of extending their range up into the northeast here. Just you have to be aware of them. They look like earthworms, but earthworms have more of, that band around the earthworm. It's like, on an earthworm, it looks like a scarf. It sticks out, but the band around an Asian jumping worm is flush with the rest of the worm. So that white or gray band doesn't stick out so much. You can recognize them also because they jump. But evidently, they destroy your soil.
Really?
Yeah. Their castings turn to like stones, and so they consume all these nutrients, and they don't leave anything good behind. And so people have really suffered with the upper layer of their soils, like your ajugas, because they're not in a good soil anymore. It's like a Swiss cheese underneath. Happily, this only occurs on the very top layer of soil. So deeply rooted shrubs and trees will not necessarily be affected.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there are no cures right now. People have tried mustard, and diatomaceous earth, and hand picking them to get rid of them individually.
Yes.
There's no real cure because you try to cure something and it kills the good earthworms or whatever.
Right.
It kills some other.
Have you seen these on your property?
I haven't.
Yes.
But I haven't looked really hard. But I thought to myself, oh no, does this mean I can't buy another plant? I can't go to a nursery? Well, I certainly don't get mulch because they do appear in mulch that has not been heated.
Oh, that's interesting.
But no,
good point.
they say they're already on your property, so don't fret.
Okay. Do they actually jump? Did you say? Do they really jump?
If you poke them, evidently they jump.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just another thing that we gardeners get ourselves with, and we have to accept it and just work around it.
Well, there always have been damaging, insects and viruses and funguses that we do have to work around. I mean, everyone's talking about the spotted the lanternfly, which is a very dangerous insect that's going to really be damaging to orchards and fruit trees. It's because it attacks all kinds of trees, I understand. So this is something that I know that people are starting to see. They're very obvious when you see them because they're the red, and you have to kill them immediately.
By hand, you have to individually kill them?
Yes, you do. Yeah, some people are coming up with kind of homemade devices to catch them, but it's really that's one to be really aware of, and you can read about that one online as well.
Right.
I know that the local departments of environmental conservation are all concerned about it. I mean, they're cleaning trucks that come in, the tires of trucks that come in from out of state to make sure they're not carried in. So there's a lot of work being done to certainly address the problem.
Right.
But it's a big issue. So that, and then I know that many of us have heard of the beech leaf tree disease, and we're not arborists, but I do talk to several arborists during the year about this, and they also don't have a natural solution for this. They think it's some kind of insect as well causing that. And one of my arborists said that he fertilizes my beech tree early in the spring to help it withstand, attacks, just beefing up its immune system, which can be good. By the way, everyone should really consider having an arborist and fertilizing trees, because especially in the drier, hotter weather, trees are really suffering, and they can use that fertilization. It doesn't have to be every year. It's usually every other year, in fact. Something to think about.
And we've had warmer winters recently, and that means that we are now host to insects and so forth that previously would not have survived in an ice cold winter, but now we might be more susceptible to some of these creatures that come from another climate.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we do have to adapt as gardeners and see what's really working well. Some plants are just tougher than others, which is something that we can think about. Yeah, and I'd say, looking back on the year, it was great to see around town many more people are growing up their lawns, which is great. Just letting them grow. You don't have to rip them out and plant things necessarily. Just let them grow. And they do bring kind of a wispy softness to the terrain. And I think that you're saving money, right? Not having your lawn cut, either saving on gasoline or labor or both. So I thank all those listeners out there that are trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I hope that your garden continues to flourish into 2024.
You too.
Yes, it will be fun to report on how things go as we head into the spring. And to all you listeners out there, have a happy winter season of dreaming up your gardens.
Yes, enjoy.
That wraps up today's garden conversation. We would like to answer your gardening questions on the show. So please message us on Instagram at Parsley and Sage Podcast, or visit our website at parsleyandsagepodcast.com. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pam Pooley.
And I'm Jean Farewell for Parsley and Sage. Happy digging.